Welcome all. In this session, we are going to learn React by developing a simple project. So before starting the project, we will have a short introduction about React. So if you take React, it is just a simple library. It is not an environment. It is very simple library which is used for only developing the user interfaces. This is the first point. And in React, we create components using JSX. With JSX you can combine all the three CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. You have to understand, and we will see in depth in JSX when we are developing the project. The third thing is just to let you know how simple it is to create a component React. Just by using these 4 lines, you can develop a React component. So this particular thing is a though it looks like a HTML, it is JSX. Okay. So with these 4 lines, we can create a React component. So shows how simple it is. Okay. And in React, we have only components, no directive services controllers in Angular. Only it is used for developing user components. In MVC, it just points to the view, nothing else. It doesn't have a controller service or directive. We are only going to develop a user component. Okay, okay. And the third thing is, it is very simple that it can also be put inside an Angular application using ng-react. This shows how simple it is. Okay, the React can also, once you write in React using React Native, it can be also developed as a mobile application. Okay, so what we are going to develop in this session, we are going to develop this simple project which has a login page and a home page where it shows a list of employees, and this list of employees comes from a server actually, and we will have a logout button and login button, and we will have a username and password. So for this, we'll have a username and password hard coded in the server. Okay, once that particular username and password is entered by the user and presses submit, it will move on to the home page where we will show the list of employees with a provision to log out. Once the user presses on logout, he will be able to proceed to the login page. And all these things should be editable. Okay, the employee name and position held, all this should be editable. And we should also add a provision to delete the employee if the user wishes. So this is going to be a project what we are going to design. So we are going to have 16 steps by which we are going to develop this project. You can see this. So by these 16 steps, we will be developing the project. So let's proceed with the first requirement, that is to create a skeleton React application using React CLI. Okay. Once you download Node, you will be getting that npx using which you can create a React project. Okay. Just the requirement is you go to your Google browser and download Node. Once you download Node, you will have that npm installed in your machine. Once based on your MSI, you install the MSI 64-bit or 32-bit if it is Windows or Mac OS. Choose the corresponding installer and install the node. Once you install the node and open command prompt and move to a particular folder, and using npx create React app. So this is the thing, npx create React app and the name of the application. I will give the name of the application as React test. Okay, I will just give enter now. So this should be creating the skeleton of the application. over which we can develop our own application. It just gives a skeleton of the application. So over this we can modify it for our own terms. Okay, so let's wait for it to download. This actually creates the React test and also downloads the necessary packages required like React, React DOM, and all those. It and even for deploying the React application, it does the development server also for you. Okay, let's wait for it to create. Now it has completed creating the skeleton React project. Let's open that in VS Code to explore further. Okay, sorry. So I will open that. No, it was named as React test, right? Okay, I'll just open that application. So this is what it created. If you explore the files it has created, it will have app.js, okay, and it will have index.js, everything, okay. So this is where it starts. Actually, what we are doing is just have a simple understanding. The React DOM anyway will create from scratch. So this React DOM renders the application onto the root, which is present in index.html. So the in any web application, it's all starts with index.html. In this index.html, you will find the root application, root div. So onto this div, inside this div, the React DOM inserts the React component. If you see as per the index.js, so it just finds the root element and inserts the this React application inside the root div, which is present in index.html. Okay, this is what it happens. Okay, so let's I will just start the application. Maybe we will understand further by working with scratch on this. Okay, anyway we are going to modify this. Okay, let me start. For starting, the packages are already installed because the npx takes care of also installing the packages. Okay, so here if you go inside and see, you can use this shortcut to start the application. If you go to the package.json, you will find the shortcut start. So making use of the start cut, I will start the application now. Okay, so I will give now npm start. Okay, so let's wait for it to start. So what it actually does it is it starts the webpack dev server and puts all our code. It actually using webpack, it creates the bundle and hosts our our complete application, gives that complete bundle to the front end. Basically, if you see here, once let it deploy, then I will show you that. So the webpack is also installed as part of this installation. If you go inside and see, you can see also the webpack dependency installed. So it it actually starts the webpack dev server and creates the bundle using our complete whatever the code we have written, and gives the complete bundle to the front end. Okay, and it comes to the backend only for data. That's what it happens in client side rendering. You have to understand, even Angular or React, everything works in the similar manner. Okay, so let me show you. So this is what, yeah, skeleton React application what the React CLI created for me. Okay, so so let me delete all this and let's create a functional component, and I will try to make you understand. So this is our first requirement, right? As per this, the first requirement is to create a functional component. There are two components which you can create in React, functional and class. So let's first create a functional component. Okay, so let me delete all this code. Maybe I will delete all this. For creating, now I have to create the component, and I will ask it to React to render it onto the root element which is present in the index.html by using React DOM. Okay, the first requirement is importing the libraries. Okay, what you have to do is, the main thing you React need is import React from React. This is the first requirement what you need, and this is needed for converting your JSX into JavaScript code. Okay, you will understand it better when we go inside that JSX. And for rendering the React DOM onto the root element, root div element present in your index.html, you require React DOM as well. Okay, these two are required now. So you can see this. Okay, now we have imported the libraries. We require React DOM and React. Now let's create a functional component. How to create a functional component? The creating a functional component is very simple in React. We have to just return a JSX element. Okay, so let me so just understand that it should be, any component in React should start with capital letters. Okay, and I'm using JSX to create a function, and to create a component you have to just return JSX. Okay, you understand? So I will just return JSX. This is, though it looks like HTML, it is JavaScript. It gets converted as JavaScript. This element gets converted as JavaScript. You can just go inside and see this is a JSX div, not a normal div, what you see in HTML page. Okay. Now you have created a functional component. Now you have to ask React, React DOM to render it, render this functional component onto your index.html page, right? For that you just use React DOM, React DOM dot made a small mistake. Okay, it is from React DOM actually, not React, and it should be like this. Okay, React DOM. Okay, now try to get the render method from that, and here you have to, the first parameter will be the component, and the second parameter is where you want React DOM to render the React component into. So this is like, I want to render this app, whatever you have made it up, into document dot get element ID equal to root, because we have only a root div element in the index.html. Okay, let's create it. Sorry, it is document, right? So now it has completed. Let us see whether we are able to see hello in our page. So we are able to, we successfully created a functional component in React. So now to understand better how it works, okay. So when you do localhost HTML, right? The index.html is the first page which will get loaded in any application. Okay. If you see the page source here, right? If you inspect, no, I want to see the page source, right? Not able to see that. If you see the page source here, you will see the same file, index.html, but you will see these lines getting added, right? So these lines are getting added by the React CLI. So what it does, the React CLI does is when you start the application, it will start the Webpack dev server and host it on to 3000. And it also using Webpack, it builds a bundle, okay, and gives it to the front end. So the bundle is actually given is present in this path, though it is hidden by the we can't see it here, that bundle we can't see it here, but it gets created, okay. When you start the application, it gets created and it is given to the front end, okay. So you can also see that bundle here. You see the sources, right? You will see the bundle here. So this bundle will have all our files create whatever we ran, we created, right? That everything is present here. You can see hello and everything present here. Functional component and whatever we wrote is present here. So all the HTML, CSS, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is bundled as a single file, a single bundle file, and given to the front end. And using this bundle, it will do. If you have another component, that also will be fetched from this bundle, but only for data. Maybe for employee data, it will go to the backend to fetch the data. Otherwise, it never needs to go to the backend. Okay, so by this way, the efficiency is greatly improved in case of React or Angular because these are client-side technologies. Okay, so we have all the necessary HTML, CSS, JavaScript in the front end itself through the bundle built by Webpack. Okay, okay. So let's proceed with the next. We have created a functional component. So let's proceed with the next topic now. So let's proceed with the next step, like introduction to JSX. Okay, I was keep saying that this is whatever we wrote, right? We actually wrote here. Okay, this is a JSX element, not a JavaScript element, right? This is a JSX, not HTML. Though it looks like HTML, it is actually JavaScript actually. The JSX, what really happens is this is getting converted by JSX compiler, okay, to JavaScript, okay. So you can also wonder here, we never use React. Why we have to import this line, okay? So because when this is getting converted, this gets converted to React.create element. So we can see how it gets converted. If you go to this page, Babel Playground, if you have go to that page, you will see that how this is getting converted. This JSX is getting converted, okay, to JavaScript. Just go to this page, okay. So this is what we wrote, right? This is how it is getting converted, okay. Can see this is how it gets. This is JSX code, and just by JSX compiler it gets converted to React.create element, because here we have React, right? That's why in our page we need a React, okay, because when it runs it will throw, else it will throw error that React is not present in your page when this gets converted by JSX compiler to JavaScript. Okay. Is it mandatory to write a JSX is nothing but a extension to JavaScript. So we also saw in React we can write HTML, CSS and JavaScript in the same JSX. All the three can be represented in the JSX. Okay. So JSX, if you see, it is an extension to JavaScript. It is not mandatory to write our React components in JSX. You can easily write it like this. You can, instead of returning a JSX element, you can do the conversion, return it yourself. But just for convenience for the developers, we are writing in JSX. Okay. This also will work now. Okay. If you go to the page, React page, it also will work. This also prints hello. You can see that. So JSX is just as a convenience for the developer, because if you have a nested, right, it will be very difficult to, for this it may look simple for you. Okay. For this it may look simple, but if you have a nested element, maybe inside the div, I have a many span. Okay. A couple of spans. Okay. After that, this inside this div, I have many span elements. Okay. Maybe I have something. Let me just copy paste this. You can understand how complex it becomes. So you have to return this instead of this, which is looks very simple, but this looks very complex in case of nested, when you want to write a nested HTML. So this is also more error prone. So it is more preferable to use JSX. Okay. Now, hope you understood what is JSX. Okay. So that's why we write JSX just as a convenience for the developers. Now our next step will be to move this to a separate, this component, the function component we wrote, we will move to a separate file. Okay. So how to move it is our next challenge. Okay. So let me, we already have app.js. So I'm not creating it. I will delete all this, whatever is present in that app.js. Okay, and I will copy the function component we wrote to that app.js. Okay, so I can delete it here, and React is also needed there, because for converting this JSX into JavaScript element, once it converts, it becomes React.create element. So it will require React. So I am adding React, and for using this component in index.js, you need export constant. We can export it as a default component, default app. Okay, using ESX import. Okay, ESX we have AMD common JS module system and ESX module system. Using ESX module system, I'm just exported it. Now I can use it in this file using import. Okay, now to use it in this file, I will import this app, and I can do it without that flower braces because I have done a default export. Okay, app. Okay, no need of JS, because for JS that .js is optional. Okay, now we have imported the app from that app file, right? We have moved the function component here and we have exported, and now we have also imported. Now it should work because I already have that app here. Now this will be rendered in the root element. Now let's see whether it is working. I will close all this so that you understand better. Now also you can see that hello. Okay. Okay. This is the next step is done for us. Now let's move on to the next step. The next step is making the functional component as a class component. As I told you earlier, We have two types of components in React. The functional component. This is a functional component. Now let us make it as a class component. What is how to make it as a class component is very simple. Okay, in a function component we just return, but in a class component we have to return it inside render method. Okay, and this class component should extend from component. Okay, and we have to return it inside render method. So it is a render method. So we have returned it inside the render method, and for making it as a class component, just add ESH class and say extend component. Component is also imported from React. So that's it. Now this also should work for us. Okay, it is working. So these are the major differences, and the other major differences is for a class component, the class component will be able to access the state and props. Okay, state and props are accessible, and also you can access the lifecycle hooks like component did mount. We have different lifecycle hooks like all these. Okay, these methods called as lifecycle hooks are called when the component is in that particular state. Maybe when the component is mounted, this will get called, and is about to get mounted, this lifecycle hook will get called. And these lifecycle hooks are only you can add it only for class component. Okay, and this will be called when that particular state happens in the component. Maybe when the component gets mounted, whatever code happens here will get executed. Okay, this is one difference, and all the components, class component will be able to refer to state. You can see state, it will be able to have all the class components have a particular state. Okay, so will all the instance will have a reference to the state. Okay, and props also it will get access to. The props are nothing but how the properties which are sent from the parent. This properties you can also access it in function components, but the difference between class and function components, if you take the class components will be able to have access to the lifecycle methods, that is lifecycle hooks like component did mount and the state. Okay, this dot state you can't access it in a functional component. So all the class components will be able to refer to the state. What is the state basically? State is nothing but or like external dependencies. Maybe for our project, right? For the employee project, what we were seen till now, if you take the external dependencies based on which your application is dependent upon. Okay, for us the external dependencies are these employees which we get from the user. These are external dependencies, and the other external dependency is the username password what the user enters. That is also a external dependency, right? What the user enters, and based on whether if he enters the correct username and password and he presses on submitted, there will be a state. Okay, login state, whether it is true or false. That is also a external dependency based on which we will be showing the login page or the employee page. Okay, when he enters, I will reiterate, when he enters the correct username and password and we press on submit, and we can maintain another state called logged in. Okay, so once he enters it, we will make the logged in which was false as true, so that we show the employee page. So the states are nothing but the external dependencies. Okay, so for our application the states may be like this, though we will see that implement it later, just to for you to understand. The state for our application may be like this. They may complete employees, which is a list, and username and password, which is entered by the user, password, and we can also maintain a state called logged in state, and we can also maintain an error. If he enters a wrong username and password, maybe we can update the error state so that we show this error to the user in the login page. Okay, this is all the external dependencies we have for this application, which we can maintain in the state for the application. So this state is not present for the functional component. So if we want to update the state, the functional component has to tell it to the parent class component to update the state. It can't update, it does not have a state, so it cannot update. It has to tell it to the propagate it to the parent class component to update the state. So you have to understand. Okay, hope you understood. So these are the big differences with the class component. Okay, so this is what I wanted to make you understand. Okay, so this is the things we did now introduced and making it as class component. All right, now so okay, so let's now proceed to the next step in our step to project creation. So let us move to the next step, making a single employee functional component. Okay, so first let us return. Right now what it is present here is like we are returning hello. Now I want to return something like what as per our I want to return a single employee component. Later we will make it as a list. uh, we will make it iterate through a list so that we can see a uh, many employee components. So first let us create a return a single employee component. Okay, that will be a first step. So let us return a single employee JSX. Then we will create a separate employee in another file and make it to return. So let us do that. Instead of doing hello, we will do in that way. Okay. For doing that, let us move to our code. So instead of this, I want to return a employee component, right? So you have to understand that when it moves across lines, it is always recommended to put it in this. Okay, and other thing you need to understand is in while returning, right, you have to have only a single root. You can't have multiple roots. Okay, you can't have like this. If you have like this, it will throw error. Okay, you can't have it like this. You can see we are getting error right here, right? So it should have only a single root. Inside that single root you can have multiple spans or diffs. So let me create inside this, let me create a div. Okay, and let this div have multiple divs. Okay, so that we can be able to return employee name, date of birth, and position held. Okay, so I will copy it 3 times, and what we have to do inside this is a label. Okay, this is not a HTML label. You can see that it is a JSX label. Okay, so have it. So there will be certain differences. Okay, and we will have a input element for this employee name so that any user can edit that. Okay, For this, let me create a value. Let this be for time being ABC or something. Okay. And it is type text. That is the default value anyway. Okay. Let me copy paste this so that I don't recreate. So the next one is date of birth for that employee. I will make it as DOB. Okay. And let this value be something 10 underscore 10 2010 something like this, and position held. Okay. And I will have it as value to be manager. Okay, understood. So now let us see whether this is getting returned instead of hello. So we are able to see that value here. I also need a border and a padding. So let me add a CSS. We already have app.css. I will delete all this value and I will add something employee uh, class or something. Maybe employee style. Okay. And we will add something here. So we want to add a border for this. Let this border be 1 pixel solid green. And let me add a padding of 10 pixels. So how to add this style in that JSX? So first you need to import it. Okay. So how to import? Just import. Okay. And do .app.css. So here no need to do like this import React component. No need to export it here, because for this it is it is okay if this runs, this CSS runs. No need to export anything from CSS. Okay, it is enough for this to run. No need to export anything. So I just import that app.css and whatever I mentioned the CSS there, the employee style, I will add it as a class name here. It should not be class here because this is JSX. It has only class name. So I told you, right, there are certain differences. So it just add the class name here. That is the employee style. So let me see whether that style is applied, and now it is applied. You can see that green border. So as per our requirement, we have to move this to a separate, you can see it here. Move this employee, you have to create a single employee functional component. So let me move this as a functional component rather than keeping it here. Okay. So for that, for creating this as a functional component, so as per the design, right, development design, it is always better to break it into small pieces. So let me add it, create it as a separate functional component. So just add employee, and it is better to name it as employee.js. And here, so first you have to understand, you have to add this React, that is necessary in all the components. Okay, no need of component because just going to add a functional component, right? So you can name it employee, and let me add it. So just I will copy paste whatever we wrote it there here, right? So this has to be returned now. And since we are returning multiple lines, it is better to put it inside this braces. Okay. Now we have done this. The next step I need to do is I also need to import the CSS, right, in that file, because we are using employee style here. So let me do this. Now I have added. Now I have to use this component in app.js. So what I have to do, I will just delete this because it's already present as a component, right? I can have a div, that's not an issue. Here I first need to export this functional component so that app.js can use it. So let me export it as a default value. Default, you can have multiple things you can export. Here I am exporting this employee component as a default thing. Okay. Here you import this employee. Since it is default export, you can name it in any name. I will name it, I will keep it as employee only. So let me do this. As I told you, JS is optional here, but for CSS it is not optional. Okay, you have to understand. And here what I will do, I will add that employee. Okay, so I have added the employee as a functional component and I have returned that here. Let me see now whether it is working. And it is working fine, right? Now coming to our another thing. See, right now these values are all static, right? But if I want to send the value from app.js to the employee, which is the child, from parent, which is app.js to employee, what I need to do? I have to make use of props. Let us see, it is part of my next step. So this one we have completed. So it is part of my next step. Okay. So let's complete the. So let's proceed with the next step. That is the passing data to the employee component you via props. Okay. So you have to, whenever you want to send data from a component to another component, you have to make use of props. Maybe this can be comparable to event binding, property binding, and event binding in Angular. Okay. Yeah. Even property binding is sending the value. Okay. From your parent to the child. And likewise, if I click on any of this, I want to send the data back. That also need to be sent in props. Now we will see how to send these values, right? Employee name, DOB, and personnel from the app.js to employee.js through props. Okay, just understand props is the way you have to send the data from the parent to the child and child to parent, vice versa, which is comparable to property and event binding in Angular. Okay, so let me send the data. Now understand I want to send something. Okay, some data, XYZ. Okay, and the DOB, date of birth, I want to send something. Question held can be something. Okay. Now to receive the data in the employee, you need to add something. This is not mandatory to add a props. Now I need to pass this data, name, all these, to the employee, the child component, which is the function component. To receive the data, I need to add something called props. This need not be props only, can have any custom name. I will have it as props. To get the data here from the props, you need to add it in the value. Okay. And any JavaScript, if I want to write it inside JSX, I will use the flower braces. Okay. Now inside JavaScript, I am writing the code props.name, because this is the name how I send the data here, right? I send the data in name. So let me take it in name. Likewise, for date of birth, I will take it in props.dob. Okay. Likewise, props.ph for position held. So now all this data should be available. Whatever you sent here should be available, because we have sent through props to the child component and retrieved it in props. Okay. So you can see this. So right now when I check, it should all be displaying this value. Okay. Yeah, I had that as manager there. Can make it as supervisor. Okay. So let me check it now. So you can see it here. The data, whatever data we send from the parent to the child, we are able to see it here, right? So till now we saw about property binding. From the parent to the child, we passed a value. That is all the three values: the employee name, date of birth, and supervisor. Now, if I want to send an event from the child to the parent, maybe for any click happens in the child, I want to send an event to the parent. How can I do that? That is comparable to event binding in Angular. So to do that, let me proceed to the code. So here, if I want to propagate a event to the parent, in case if anyone clicks on the input element, this employee name input element, what I need to do is I have to add on click, because I am interested in adding a on click event. Okay. And for on click over the props, I need to add a function. Okay. Maybe on click handler. Okay. Props dot on click handler I need to add. Now whenever click happens, so this on click is nothing but JHS event. Okay. Whenever on click happens, on click handler will be called over props. So in the app.js, you have to add this on click handler. Okay. You will add something like this. When this event gets propagated from the child, that is the employee component, you need to run a function. So let me put flower braces and write a function here, which will be called whenever on click happens on the employee name. Okay. So I wrote a event, and whenever click happens, right, React will expose a event. Okay, this event will contain all the information about the click event. Okay, whenever the click happens, let me do a console log. Okay, event, maybe I will say click event, and I will print the event, comma event. So now let us see whether that event is getting printed. Whenever we click on the employee name on the employee component. So let me go to that thing. So whenever, let me clear it off. Whenever click, when anyone clicks on this, you can see the click event, the console is getting printed. And in this event, which is exposed by React, we will get all the information about the click event. Since it is a click event, you will get all the information like where it got clicked, what is the x-axis, y-axis, and all those information. If it is an on-change event, you will get to know what value was entered by the user. So it is all based on the event. Okay. So this is how event we have to bind from the child to the employee, child to the parent. Hope it is clear. Let's proceed to the next step. So let's proceed with the next step. That is displaying a list of employees using map. Right now we just displayed a single employee functional component. So let us make it to display a list of employees using map. Okay. So right now if you see, let's move on to the project. So if I start the project, you will see a single functional component. So let me make it as a list of employees. Okay. So right here you can see a single functional employee component. So let us make it as a list of employees. Okay. So let me copy the list of employees from here. Already have it. Let me copy that, and let me move to here. Let me copy it here, and let me make it as an instance for this app class component, and let me iterate through this employees. Okay. How I will iterate through this list of employees? Okay. From this array of employee objects, I will take the name, DOB, and position held from this rather than hard coding here. So to iterate through this employees array, I will use map. Okay. So whenever you want to do JavaScript inside JSX, you have to use the flower braces. Okay. So just use the flower braces and put this dot employees dot map, and I will receive each employee in this as in each iteration. Okay. Okay. And I will, for each iteration, let me create an employee. And I will close the map here. Just for understanding, I will close the map here. Okay. What I did for I'm just using map to iterate the employees, and for each iteration I am creating this EMP employee component. Okay. Okay, you are able to understand. This employee component is created for each iteration of this employees, and I also have to return in case of map as well. So now if you see, if you go to the browser, you will see for each iteration I have created that much employee components. So these are all separate employee components. So I have created 6 employee component because I have 6 employees here. Fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So for each iteration I have created this employee component. So let me take now the EMP, the name, date of birth, and position held from this EMP object. For taking that, just again put flower braces and put emp.name here because that's how it is here. And here I will put it as emp.date of birth, right? And similarly for position holder, we can do emp dot position held. Okay. Now I have passed the value from the employee object to the employee component, and this value will be sent through the props to the employee component. So I've just from the map for each iteration, I'm taken the name and date of birth and position held from the employee object and passed to the employee component, which is already passed through props. So let us see now whether it works now. So if you see now it is all changed to reflect the values present in this employee list. Okay. So now we have done with this step, right? Making a list of employees using map. Now let's proceed with the next step. So introducing introduction to state and implementation state. State I've already introduced to you, right? So let me implement the state here. So rather than having it as an instance value employees, let me introduce state now. Okay, as I told, state is nothing but a external dependency, right? So let me make it as employees here. So right now what I'm doing is I'm moving the instead of an instance value, I'm making it as a state, the employees as a state. So let me also add this there. So this is going to be my initial state. Okay. Later I will try to bring it from the server. Okay. Now this is the state. I've added the employees list of employees in my state, which is my external dependency, which we will later bring it from the server. Okay, and I can delete this because we are going to use the state. Okay. Okay. And now we can take the employees not from the instance value but from the state of employees. Okay. This also should work now to my understanding, but it's not working. Let us see the issue. So we have added in the state employees and we are using the state dot employees, right? The name is correct, I hope. Okay. And I'm iterating through the map. Fine. So now you can see from the state we are again able to get the employees. So other thing you need to understand in this case is this render method will be called again by the React whenever we change the state, not by giving this dot state dot employees to a new value, but by using set state. Maybe we have a click handler, right? Whenever the employee name is getting clicked, this click handler is called. We can actually change the state here using set state. We should not set state. We can set the employees to be empty. For setting that, we can do like this because I want to set the employees as empty. So once we call this change the state, okay, the Angular will re-render this, call this method again. Okay, whenever the state gets changed, this will get called. So now let us see whether that it is re-render is happening whenever we click on this click button. You can say that this whenever the click happens, the employees we change the state to be an empty list, and this gets re-rendered. So since it is an empty list, nothing is being shown in the screen. Okay, and this should not, you should not do this as like this. You should not change the state just like this. Okay. This dot state dot employees dot, you should not change it like this. You should use only set state. If you do like this, the render will never happen. You can see that even if you click, nothing will happen. Only you have to change the state using set state method. Okay. Hope this is clear. We just, as part of this step, we have moved the employees list as into the state of the class component, and using the state of the class component, we are iterating. And we also tried on the click handler of the employee name. Whenever we clicked, we try to change the employee state. And since we changed the state, the React was able to re-render, and we were able to see a empty list. Okay. Hope you understood. Thank you. Let's proceed with the next step. Okay. So we are moving to the next step, making the data available. Till now, we are having the data hard coded, the employee list hard coded in my component. Now let me take the data from the node server. Using axios, we will try to get it. If you take a React, it is, as I told you, it is just a library. It does not have its own, like Angular, it is not a framework. It does not have its own HTTP server, HTTP service to get the data. We have to rely on some third-party libraries to get data from the external servers. Okay. Right now, I'm making use of Axios. There are also other third-party available. Right now, we will proceed with Axios to get the data, this employee data from the server. Okay. So the first step will be to install Axios. Okay. So let me try that. So I want to install Axios inside my system. Okay, just do install, and let's wait for it to install. I'm getting some permission issue. Let me try it from the command prompt. Go into this folder. Okay. Maybe run it as administrator. And let me go inside this React. Okay, and I will try to install this Axios. Let's wait for it to get installed. So now it has completed installing the Axios to my application. So that you can very well verify if you go inside. The axios should be added as part of this package.json. You can verify that. You can verify it has been added. And also you should be able to find it if you go inside this and check. If you go inside this, you should be seeing the axios somewhere. Okay. So here you can find that. So let me, so axios is now install my machine. So now I have to get, using axios, I have to get the employee list rather than having it as this hard coded in my component. Okay, let me remove this hard coding, and I will make this initial state to be empty, and from where I will get my employee list. I already have a dummy node server, so that is present as part of my GitHub. Can go to this GitHub. I can go to, I will also add it in my description. You just go to repositories and you just click on this and clone this. should be getting a dummy node server. You clone that, and right now I will go inside that clone path and start the server, which will be the server which gives my employee list. Okay, this I have cloned it inside node server. Okay, now to it is a simple server which can actually go inside the server if you want. So it is a simple server which so which has many get methods, delete methods, and add methods. If you want to add employees or delete employees, you can make use of this node server as the backend. Okay, so to start the server, just do node server.js. Okay, so, so it means it has been already started and it is running for me. So it has been already started. Okay, so it is running in localhost 8081. And to get the employees, you just do get employees. When you do this, you will be able to get the employees. So I have to make use of this URL, and using axios, I will get the data from it. Okay, so let me go to my system, and component did mount is one of the lifecycle hooks which gets called at when the component is mounted. This lifecycle hook is called by React. Okay, you just have to first do axios negive. It will automatically add the import, and you put axios dot get. We are want to do a get, and you add the URL. Okay, localhost 8081 get employees, and it axios actually gives you a promise. So to get the data, what you have to do, you have to do then. Okay, then you get the data here. The response. You try to print the response how it comes. Okay, I'll just print it out for you first before using it in my application. Just print the response and see what is the response it is retrieving. This is this one, and this should be this one. That's it. So let's see whether the Axios is able to go to the server and get the response for us. As you know, the promise, the first callback will always be the response. Just I have not handled the error for the promise yet. Okay, just then you have to also start the server. Then server is also not started. Let me go to my React and start the server. Let us wait for it to start. Now it is started. It is not able to display anything because we have a empty employees, right? That's why we are not seen anything. But you are able to see the response here, right? So this is the response which is being sent from the server. But you can see the list of employees is present in data. So response.data will be able to give you this data. So let me change it to response.data. When you do response.data, you should be able to get the data, right? You are able to see the data. So this has to be set to employees, right? For setting this to employees, you have to, as I told you earlier, for setting state, you should not never do like this. If you do like this, right, it means the React will not know the state has changed. For changing the state, you have to always use set state. Only when you use this method and change the state, the React will call the render method again. Okay. So let me put this to be response.data. So once I receive the data from the node server, what I'm doing, I'm setting the state. I'm changing the state. Now once the state gets changed, the employee state gets changed, the React will be calling this method again. So it will actually iterate through the employees and will be showing the list of employees for us, as we saw it in the case when we had the employees hard coded in our application. So let's see now. Now you can see, now we are able to see the list of employees. So the whatever is been sent from the node server, we are able to see it in our uh, view page in our browser. Okay. Now let's move on to the next. So let's move on to the next step. Right now I want to edit the name and position held of the employee. Right now let's move on to our application. You can see that you are not able to edit the username or a password, right? This is happening because I have set that click handler to delete the employees whenever I press on click. Let me comment it. So now you can see I'm not able to edit the position held or name. This is happening because whenever you are editing, though the editing happens, it is not reflected in the state. Whatever the view, this app.js component is showing is the employee state. Okay. To to see the whatever the user types, you have to edit the state. You have to give the state from that employee component to the app component through event on change. You have to implement on change in the child component, that is the employee component, and you have to make the change the state in the app.js so that you will be able to see the change whatever the user types in name and position held. So let me do it how we can uh, make the user employee name and position held editable. Okay, for that the first step will be to as I told you, you have to add a on change. On change, I will convert it into, there is a change event handler. Can when you do on change event handler, and here, and you have to tell the function which you want it to get called whenever on change happens on the name. Okay, I will change, write something on name change handler. Okay, I am writing this so that whenever the change happens, I am intimating the class component, the parent, that is the app component, that some changes happen, and I will also be passing the value which is changed by the user. Using this, the app.js will change the state that particular employee where the user edits the name. Okay, so let me go here, and instead of on click handler, I will write whatever the name you mentioned here, right? Yeah, I mentioned on name change handler, right? I will write the name. Okay, and I will delete all this so that you are more clear what we are doing. Okay, for this you have to write the event to update the state. Okay, with the changed value of the user. So let me write a function. Since I'm going to write JavaScript, I'm putting it in flower braces, and I will write something here. And I want the changed value, right, from the user, right? For that, I will make use of the event. passed from this event is being exposed by React. So I will make use of that event to change the value. So on change event.target.value will give you the changed value. Okay. So as a first step, I can also console log and show the event to you. Okay. The changed value is present in this event. So whenever I change anything, right, you can see that it should be printed in your console. You see some event is getting called. In this, if you go for target.value, you should be able to see the value. Many even print should give the value. Just see. See, you are able to see event.target.value is giving you the value, right? So you have to modify it using this event.target.value. You have to modify the state, that particular employee state. Okay. So what I will do is, and I also need the index because we have a list of employees. I will also use the index that also will be passed here. Okay. Sorry. So change it here. The map will be able to give you the index. Okay. You pass this target value and the index to something here, a function here. Change name. I will name the function as change name, and you give the value here. The event dot and the change value of the user. Okay. The user type that will be available in event.target.value and the index because you have a list of employees, right? Okay. So this change name has to be written here. Okay. And this takes in two values, right? It takes in the value, the change value, and the next is the index, which is a number. So using these two, we can change the state, right? This dot employees, we can actually, the best practice will be you take a copy of this state dot employees. Okay. To take the copy of the employees, you can use the destructuring operator. Okay. And we can assign it to some employees, constant employees. Okay, I've just made a copy from the whatever is present in that state dot employees, and in this you change the value employees index, that particular index, and dot name because we are changing the name to the value what was entered by the user. Okay. And with this employee you set state now. Set state employees and the new employee what you created now, right? So using this array destructuring, I've just created a copy of the employees, new employee object, actually array object. In that array, I'm going to that particular index, changing the value and setting state. Now if you see whether you are able to edit the value or not. Hmm, It is saying employees cannot set property name of undefined. It is saying maybe what issue I made. Not sure what is happening here. Mhm. Sorry about this. I have done a small issue here. Okay, the index should come from this map, not from this. Okay, that's why I think the issue has happened. Let me check now. It should work now. Okay, so now you can see we are able to change the value. So based on the index, we are changing the state now. Okay, hope this is clear. The same way you can change it for the position held also. Here also you can add it. On change, you can add on change even for position held and have it as position change handler. On position, you just copy the name, you add it here as well. You write this method also here. Oh, just need to copy this method for position held also. Okay. So let me have this method. Sorry. And you just copy the name here. So here also it can be changed, but you can write a function called change position. Okay. And here write a file called change position. Change position. Okay. And here it is position held. Now, if you do this, you should be able to change the position name. Maybe you should be able to edit the position held. Okay. So now we are able to do this step. That is, we are able to edit both the employee name and position held. Okay. Let's proceed with the next step. Now let's proceed to the next step. That is the enabling the user to delete the employee. Okay. So this is going to be our next step. So this is our application. You can see this. So what I need to add in this as part of this is I want to add a delete button in this employee component, and on pressing this delete button, the employees list should delete that employee component. Okay, this is very simple requirement. So what I need to do is the employee component, I need to add a button called delete. Add a button delete. On pressing the on click of that delete button, I need to pass the index to the parent, and the app.js has to delete the employee component from the employee list and update the state so that you are able to see that. Okay, let me proceed with the step. So first I need to add a button here, right? Let me add a button here. Button type text. You can have it text, and you add a on click handler, right? And for this you call something props dot delete handler something. This method has to be written there. Okay, and close it, and inside the button you add something called delete. In the delete handler, now I should be able to see the delete button. If you go to that page, I'm not seeing. Maybe we are seeing that, right? Delete button. Now let's proceed with adding the delete handler in app.js. So like these methods, I need to add the delete handler. So I will add this delete handler method. So let me take the click handler event, but I do not need the event anyway. Okay, because I just need the index from the map for deleting. So let me add the delete method here, delete, and I will just pass the index. That's enough for me. And I will write a delete method here and with the index. Okay. And as we did earlier, we can create a copy of the employees, and in that employees, this particular index, I will splice it. Employees dot splice, and whatever the index delete has happened, I will remove it. And I will set the state as we did earlier. Now let us check whether a delete is happening. Okay, let's go to the method, and you can see delete is happening. And this can also be extended so that you can make the delete happen also in the server. For that, making use of axios, you have to call a delete call. Okay, you have to make like we did it for axios.get. You can do axios.delete and pass the index so that server will be able to delete. That also, this can be extended to do that also. Okay, so now let's proceed with the next step. So let us proceed with the next step, adding the login component. So this is my web page. Okay, for adding the login component, what we need to do? Okay, let me add another page. Okay, I have to create a login functional component. So for that, let me add a page called login.js. Inside this, let me add the functional component, the login functional component. So write a function, and it has to return the JSH for the login component. So it has to return something like div. Okay, right? Inside the div, it has to return the username and password, right? And submit button. So let it have a label, username, and I will add an input. Put type text, and the value equal to and this can be the value. This value will be sent from the parent component, right? So let me take that value in props. Okay. So this value for this should be sent in the props from the app parent component. And if the value changes also, this also has to be sent back. So let me add a onChange handler. Okay, and for this props dot username handler. So similarly, we'll add it for password as well. So let me add also a button for submit. And if anyone clicks on the submit, what I need to do, maybe that we can handle it later. Maybe we have to add an on-click handler, and based on we have to change the state so that we change him. We change to the home page rather than the login page. On submit, if he enters the proper username and password, we have to uh, move to the home page rather than the login page. Based on the state, we will do that. Maybe that can be handled as the next step. Right now, we are just adding the login page. I also need to receive the username and password in props. So let me have it here. And the other thing I need to do is I have to do this because the JHS has to get converted to JavaScript. So for that we need this, and we have to export the login as well. Okay. And this login has to be imported here. And right now we are displaying which page? We are actually displaying the employees page. Maybe I think the server is not started. Let me start the server also. Mm, so we are getting some issues. We are getting this issue. Cannot find the model login. Okay. So just coming here. Okay, it should be dot slash login. Okay. One second. So here it is, I think so it is, it's small L, not the big one. Okay. Now let's see whether We are getting error here. What do we do? Folder. I think it is asking for authorization in my node server. Let me remove that for time being. Okay. Comment it and run it back. Because for each request it is asking for authentication. Why is it? And so it is failing. So I have removed the authentication right now. So now I should be able to get the data. So we are seeing the home page, right? Now I want it to show the login page, right? For that, what I need to do is I will this JSH, right? I will assign it to a constant, maybe emp JSH, and I will return the login instead of this. Now it should show the login page, and it is showing the login page, right? We can add some styles here so that it shows aligned, is more aligned. Okay. Maybe we'll add a div here so that it comes to the next line. This is the name, and we can add a style for this, some CSS for this. Let me add some CSS, maybe login style. Okay, we can add a login.css for this. Dot login style. Add some border, maybe 1 pixel, solid, green, and padding of 10 pixels. Just add this and you import the CSS here so that we are able to see that style in our login page. Okay. So now we are able to see the style, right? So with this, let's move on to the next step. Okay. Another thing I missed here is it has to be class name. Okay. This is JSH, not the simple HTML. So do this, you get this class name. This is to be class name of JSX, not simple HTML class. Okay. Hope you understood. Let's move on to the next step. So let's move on to the next step. We will try to add a login based on the login state. Right now, how is it our application is? Like we have just added a login page. That's it. Our what we completed in the previous step. We have added the login page. Now when the user enters ABC and pass as username and password, I want to once he logs in, I want to change the state so that he is able to see the home page rather than the login page. Now we want to have the login page and home page together. Okay, so let's add login in state for that. Okay, this is our application what we had previously. So what we have to make is when the user enters username and password and presses on submit, we want to change the logged in status. We will add a username state. Okay, let it be empty by first, and we will add a password state, and we will also add a logged in state. Okay, and by default let it be false. So if the logged in and true, if the logged in state is true, I will show the emp.js, the home page, rather than the login page. If it is logged in false, I will show the login page. So this is what I want to do. For that, let me add the username password. Right now, it is not part of state. We have added a handler for that. Let me bring it inside state, the app.js state. Okay. For that, what I need to do is the login page, right? We have a login page here. Let's bring the username password inside state. Okay. So username, whatever the login page has, right? Username, username and password, right? So let me send that username password from app.js. Username will be whatever it is present in state. Okay. This dot state dot username. The password will be this dot state dot password. And now I have sent the username and password to the login.js. Now, whenever the login.js in the login.js, they change the username and password, right? I need to handle that. Whenever the user types username and password, whatever the user types, I want to make the change in the state as well. Whatever state is maintained in app.js. For that, I will add a handler. So let me copy this username handler, right? Let me copy it to app.js. I will write a function here. Okay. User name. Okay. Username, whatever the user enters. This is actually event, not the username. The username will come in event.target.value because we have added a on change handler, right? So let me change the inset state. I will change the username here. Hope this is how I have set the username here. Now it is small, right? So username will be this dot state dot username. Sorry, event dot target dot value because we have handled it in on change, right? Target dot value. This can be also added in for password as well. Now right now we have added for username. We will try to handle it for password as well. Okay. So just to have a proper, I will sorry, will add a now. Just copy the same for password as well. So here let this be password handler. So now this should be password, because I want to change the state of the password for every change in the username, change in the password by the user. Okay, so this I have handled. Now I also need to handle for the submit button, right? Whenever the user clicks on submit button, I have to check whether the username and password is what I expected. If it is what I expected, I will allow him to access the home page, that is employee.js page. Okay, so let me add a click on click. So this should be props dot submit handler. So for the submit handler, I will add a event handling for that. So this should check whether the username password is what I expected. If it is what I expected, I will just change the logged in state as true. And based on the login state, I will change back to home page. Okay. So I don't want any event. I'm not going to retrieve anything from the click handler. So, but just we will keep the event handler, but I'm not going to use anything. So let me test it. I will write a if. I will change check the this dot state dot username. I will just for to your better understanding, I will keep it as I'm not going to take it from the database from the server. I will have it hard coded here. If it is ABC and pass, okay, I will allow him to. I will make the logged in status true so that he will be able to access the home page. Okay. Now, if it is going to be same, I will change. Okay, this dot um, this dot set state. Sorry, set state state she logged in to true. Else we have to show error, right? So for that also we will have a state. Maybe we'll add a state called error state here, and I will make this error state seen in the login page. Let the error state be empty at first. Now if that is an error, I will set the error. This dot set state logged in set state one. You can set it to error, and user can say like username or password is incorrect. Okay. This also need to be sent to the login page through props. So let me add a error also here, equal to this dot state dot error. Okay, this can be taken from the login.js. So let me add a label. and here I will put props dot error. Okay. And I have changed the login state. I also need to do the changes. If the logged in is true, I need to show the home page. If logged in false, I need to show the login page. For that, let me put this login page inside a login JSX. Okay. If the login state is true, I'm writing a method. This dot state dot logged in is true. You return employee JSX. Right. Else, if it is false, you return login page, login JSX. Right. You understand? So now right now we have done. So if this login state is true, it will return this JSX. If login state is false, it will return this JSX. So let's now check whether it works. Okay, it is giving error. Maybe we have. So it is showing the page. Let me do a first invalid login other than ABC pass. So we are getting a error, right? Username or password is incorrect. Now let us say a proper correct username and password ABC pass. What we have hard coded. Submit. Still saying the same. It is saying some. I will start the server for getting the employee list. Okay. Now I've started the server. Let me do it again. And now let me give the proper user what I've hard coded. There is some issue. This dot login state is not getting created, I think. We'll see what issue we have made. Just check whether this submit handler is correct, name is correct. So on click, I'm calling props dot submit handler, right? So that's right. So it should go inside this. It is not showing any error. Whether the login state is correct everywhere, you can see that. Logged in. See, I have made a mistake here. It is logged in, right? Maybe I made a mistake there. This is logged in, but there it was wrong, right? So the name of the state I made a mistake. So if this is this dot state logged in, this will return. Now let us check whether it works for us. Okay, let me give the proper username ABC pass. So now it works. You are able to see, right? It is showing the employee homepage, which shows the list of employees, right? Now let us move to the next step. That is adding a logout button, okay, to our application. So this should be the last for us for in our React project. Last step. So let me add that. Let me go to to my project. So to add a logout button, I just need to add a logout button here, right? So let me add a button, right? Button, which will let it show logout. So let me add a on click. Whenever anyone clicks on this, I have to change the state as logged in false, right? Just do that. Whenever the click happens, I have to set state. This dot set state. Logged in as false. This dot set state. Whenever the logout button is clicked, I'm just setting the state logged in as false so that our React will re-render and it will show the login page again. So let's check whether it is working now. Let me move to a browser. Let me first log in. So now I have got a logout button. Just click on the logout button. So let's click on the logout button, and now when on pressing the logout, the state logged in is set as false. So the React re-renders and it shows the login button, login page again based on our logic written here. Since this is made logged in is made as false, it starts returning a login page now. Hope you are able to do the complete React project with me. Okay. I will also in this playlist I will also add the GitHub for this entire React application, which you can use it as a reference. Okay. I will also be adding another playlist where we will be adding the Redux store inside the same application. We had the state from the component right here. The state was maintained by the app component here. We will externalize it, this state to a Redux store. Maybe as I will be doing that as another playlist. Thank you guys. Have a nice day.